What's happening, y'all? Show man Flex back at it again with another dope episode of the Flex Files. Let's talk about it, y'all. Listen, most men are going to have to approach. That's right, I said it. Most men are going to have to approach, right? Before we get into it, make sure to click that subscribe button below so that way you know when I post new content and new videos for y'all. And shout out to all the subs. Thank y'all for joining this Flex tribe, the Flex community. We are growing in this community. Thank y'all so much. You know, we almost at 4K subs. I'm still working on merch for y'all, so y'all gotta be ready and stay tuned for that, right? But like I said, listen, most men have to cold approach, right? If you still want to talk to women, if you still want to date women, you know, you don't want to be single forever, okay? Assuming that that's the case, then yes, you're going to have to cold approach. And I know I've talked about, you know, going off of choosing signals, right? I talk about that a lot, and I still believe that. I still primarily say that, and I still think that most men should primarily go off of choosing signals. But the difference is, to be honest with you, how attractive you are. I'm just gonna keep it a buck, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat shit. You know, we talked about the differences between, you know, non-select men and select men and alpha showpiece, all that shit. You know, and somebody left in the comments saying the difference is the looks, right? And they're not like they're mostly correct. You know, it's deeper than looks though, to be honest, especially when you're talking about alpha showpiece. But yeah, you know, looks play a big factor and role into whether you have to cold approach or not. And for people who don't know and are not aware, you know, cold approaches is basically approaching on the spot. Cold, you know what I'm saying? Approaching off of choosing signals is different. You know, a woman is looking at you. She's kind of baiting you into approaching her. She's probably looked at you a good bit, right? And, you know, that don't guarantee that she's going to give you her number or she going to want to talk to you. But, you know, it still guarantees that, hey, you know, she probably is going to want you to approach her, right? At that point, and at that point, you're just going to see what happens, you know, and being okay with whatever the result is. And that's a big, I'm going to be honest, y'all, that's kind of a big thing with this too. And it's easier said than done. But unfortunately, men do have to deal with the ego death of it, the ego unaliving of it. Or I just don't want to say the wrong term on YouTube and get demonetized. But ego death is a thing where, you know, your ego, it gets flatlined, you know, because you approach and then they reject you, and it's like you playing it back in your head. What could I have done differently? Damn, you know, this sucks. Whatever. So, but cold approaching, you really have to be okay with your ego being stripped, because when you cold approach, you're not going off of any signals. You're not going off of any choosing signals. But most men, and this is what a lot of dating coaches that, you know, maybe are attractive and, you know, handsome, they all, you know, say go off choosing signals, but the majority of men may not be handsome, so they have to cold approach. And that's something that, you know, it's not such a bad thing. I think that, honestly, you know, people have not demonized, but, well, they kind of have demonized cold approach a little bit, right? Why you shouldn't do it. I think I probably even used to make videos about why you shouldn't cold approach, but then I started to realize that most men are not going to get choosing signals, right? And unfortunately, if you are not the man that gets choosing signals, then you are going to be kind of playing a guessing game and going off of cold approach. And hell, it'll even be some time where the woman may look at you and be like she may be looking at you and she immediately look away because she don't even want you to think that, you know, she wants you to talk to her, or, you know, she don't even want you to think that, you know, she wants you to talk to her. So she's going to immediately look down, Don't approach a woman like that, right? You know, it's really about, if you're going to cold approach, you have to be interesting. You have to be interesting. You have to have charisma. You have to have very good social skills. This is why, because there are men that may not be the best looking dudes, but they still get women, right? And now this is where, and they have to approach women. These are dudes that are like 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". They're not 6 feet. They're not 6 feet. They may not have the best looking bodies. Damn, they're probably a little out of shape. You know, maybe not the best looking in the face. Ain't got the sharpest jawline probably. So ask yourself the question, because you've seen dudes like this, how do they get women? Oftentimes they have other things and other qualities about themselves that are very interesting. And more times than none, they're probably a very entertaining type of guy to be around. They may be a little corny of some type, but they're very authentically them. They're very confident in themselves as well. And that's the main one. They're very confident and authentic in their own way and in themselves. And they're so confident that they don't care about getting rejected. And this is why a lot of times women, you'll see a woman that's like really attractive and she's with a dude that's, you know, she's way out of this dude's league, right? And you're like finding yourself asking yourself the question of how did this guy, you know, how did he get her basically? How did he get her? You know, how did he, you know, get her number? How did he get her to go out on a date with him? You know, damn, is she looking like she's really into him too? Like, you know, how is that? That's because he's probably funny. He's probably got a great personality. He's probably, you know, he's probably very interesting, has very good social skills, and he plays to his strengths. He may not be the best looking dude, but he knows how to talk about he could talk about, I don't know, like he breeds horses for a living, or that's what he does on his spare time as a hobby, or, you know, he's an artist, or he just finished a chapter of this book. Like, you have to, this is why I tell men to develop hobbies as well. Like, every man should develop a hobby. And this is tying into the cold approach thing, because these men that cold approach and they become successful off of cold approach, it's because they are very interesting. Like, the woman, a woman will literally like, they'll like kind of be a little standoffish at first, and the man is, but she's not telling him no quite yet. Because if a woman tell you no, then just move on, keep it moving, right? But assuming that, let's assume that this woman doesn't tell you no, and she's actually kind of like interested in the conversation. You got to be able to keep them interested. A woman gets off on you being interesting, and how interesting are you? You can keep them hooked by what you say to them. That's how women are. They're different than men, and I've said that many times. I think I even made a video about, you know, women are turned on by what you say to them and how you make them feel, right? It's about what you say initially and then how you make them feel, making them feel comfortable, right? You know, in your presence, y'all two in the presence of each other, right? The looks get you in the door, but that ain't, but then a lot of times women be like, girl, he was fine till he opened his mouth. He whack for real. He corny for real. He just good looking, but that's it. You know, like a woman can easily get turned off by a dude that's attractive initially appearance wise, but then the moment he open his mouth and the things that he say, the way he carry himself, it turns them off. It don't matter how fine the dude is initially, right? So my point of bringing it up is to tie it back into the cold approach. That's why sometimes you'll see a dude cold approach a woman, or your homeboy cold approach a woman, and you know your homeboy ain't really the best looking dude, right? Or women don't be choosing him like that, like they would a handsome guy. And you like, now you see the dude that cold approach, and he not attractive, and then you see that she laughing, she giggling, she's smiling, she's looking interested. Like, you know, when she got her hands on her face like that, you know she's interested. You know she's hooked. And then you see him pull the phone out, and she happily takes the phone and puts her number in his phone. You've seen it. You've seen this shit happen before. And that was off of a cold approach. Shorty probably won't even looking at him none whatsoever. You didn't notice her look at him or give him choosing signals not one time. But he got the number off a cold approach. That's because he's confident. He don't care about rejection. If the girl rejects him, he's not going to push it and be pushy about it. He going to move on about it. But if she kind of leaving a little bit of openness to it, and she ain't quite rejected him yet, or even pulled away yet, like, okay, well, I got to get back to my girls, you know, like she's staying interested. So you got more time to work. You got more room to work. I've seen this happen a lot. I've seen this actually happen quite a bit. And, you know, here's the thing. That's why I always say develop hobbies. Because if you're a guy that is if you have to cold approach, if you are a guy that has the cold approach, okay, and you're not a good looking guy that gets choosing signals, because they're going to get choosing signals. But if you're a guy that is may not the best looking guy and you have to cold approach often, develop hobbies, because hobbies are going to make you more interesting. Maybe you like to do crossword puzzles. Maybe you like to do puzzles. Maybe you like to read books, fantasy books, you know, listen to, you know, fantasy audios and talk about the book that you've been listening to or reading. Talk about, you know, are you into martial arts? Are you into, what was your longest hiking trail that you ever did? There's so many different things that you can talk about that make you more interesting, and you kind of make conversation like that. Women are very, especially pretty women, are very interested in if men have hobbies, right? And some people, their job is their hobby, kind of, maybe, you know, maybe sometime, you know, that's kind of how it is, right? But that's a thing that, you know, because you may not be, some guys, every guy's not going to be interesting looking or break the ice in that way. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to play to your strengths, and the things that you don't think are interesting to women oftentimes kind of are. You'd be very surprised. You'd be very shocked. So listen, most guys have the cold approach, but work to your strengths, right? Don't let that deter you away and discourage you from wanting to approach women, right? Hey, give this video a thumbs up if you like this video. I hope this video helps somebody. Make sure to click that subscribe button below so that way you know when I post new content videos for y'all, all right? And hey, look, man, shout out to all the subs. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what your comments and your thoughts are in the comment section. It's your man Flex. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.